What's up, guys? This Saturday, we will be experiencing one of the best UFC cards I have ever seen. I think this is arguably the best card since UFC 300. We've had plenty of good ones since then 317, 311. I really enjoyed 320 when Pereira got the belt back, the Merab Sandhagen fight, Roundtree versus Yuri. 322 was phenomenal on paper. Some great fights on there as well, but I think this is the best card since 300, hands down. I may be, misremembering one or two, but this is definitely up there. That being said, in this video, I'll be giving my betting predictions for not every fight on here, but a few fights that I'm very confident in. I feel like there's no point in trying to pick all of these fights and going like 8-5 or 7-6 when I can pick, six and go 6 for 6 or maybe 7 for 7. So before I do that, I just want to say to hit the subscribe button because I will be giving out a few copies of UFC 6, and I'm going to be posting a video on how to become eligible in order to receive one, how to possibly receive one. So hit the subscribe button, win, lose, whatever. Unsubscribe after if you want. That's completely cool. But just to stay up to date with the I'll call it contest, hit that button and stay tuned. Without dragging things on, let's get into it. First one, Basanger Susarkaya versus DeJordan Santos. This is probably the easiest fight of the night to call, in my opinion. I got to go with Susarkayev. He's a heavy favorite, and for good reason. This guy's 11-0, undefeated. 2-fight finish win streak in the UFC versus DeJordan Santos. DeJordan, I think he's six wins of his last 7 fights, or 5 of his last 6. The loss being a loss to Ozzy Diaz, which is not a good loss. It's not something that I can look at and say, oh, okay. And, it's kind of interesting because you look at his, like I said, he's 5 for 6 or 6 for 7, and that's a pretty high win streak. And you look at the loss to Ozzy Diaz, you kind of wonder about the quality of the guys he's fought. And of the fights he's won, he has not had a finished win streak since 2021, which is insane. I mean, he's taken on Basanger Susarkayev, who, like I said, 2-fight finish win streak in the UFC, 11-0 undefeated, training partner of Khamzatchimaev, young guy who's only going to get better and better. I have to go with Susarkayev. There's no point in trying to, drag it out or play devil's advocate. It is what it is. The next one that I have complete confidence in is Jared Gordon to beat Jim Miller. Now, both these guys are older. Miller's 42, Gordon's 37. They definitely have their highlights in the UFC. I'm trying to think of their most recent ones. Jim Miller has quite a few submissions in recent history. Jared Gordon, he just got knocked out in his last fight, but had a knockout win before that, and then a decision win, then knockout win before that. His knockout loss, he had 80 strikes or so compared to 107. I think he went like 2 for 3 in takedowns, so it wasn't like he got dominated or anything like that. Jim Miller's coming off of that loss to Chase Hooper, who just lost to Hernandez. Not to use MMA math or anything, but Miller is slowing down. He's getting older. He's taking on someone with the ability to knock guys out in Jared Gordon. Jared Gordon, I don't want to mention it because it was 4 years ago, but he's got that win over Paddy Pimblett. Officially, it's a loss, but I think he did beat Pimblett. Jim Miller, like I said, he's got some subs, but they're over nobodies, no ranked opponents or anything like that, or guys that stand out. So this one, don't want to try to look in too much. I think Jared Gordon takes it. I think that his grappling defense is good enough to withstand Miller's submissions, and Miller is just getting older and older. And as we know, with guys like Dariush, that chin starts to slow down. I mean, Dariush is 6 years younger than Miller. Miller hasn't been knocked out recently, but if he's going to keep fighting, it's going to happen at some point. So, got to go with Gordon. Next up, Atebagautier versus Ozzy Diaz. I got to go with Atebagautier. He looked very human, I guess you would say, in his last fight. He's a phenom, though. I mean, he's an absolute beast. He's a middleweight, but he's got the same power as Francis Ngannou, just lays people out left, right, and center. Ozzy Diaz, on the other hand, not much to say. I mean, I really don't want to try and, like, there's not much to say about Ozzy. I definitely have to go with Atebagautier. I think that he will get it done. I think it will be, if I had to pick, I mean, I'm not going to pick the method of victory, but I'd have to go with a knockout or TKO. That being said, let me see. I mean, there's just nothing I can say about Aussie. I don't even want to try and play devil's advocate. There's nothing I can say. Next up, King Green versus Jeremy Stevens. Okay, so King Green coming off that nice win over Daniel Zellhuber. That was one of my favorite fights this year. It was he was looking like Izzy. He was looking like who else? Nate Diaz at moments. He was looking like Hamza. I mean, I don't. King Green. This was Bobby Green's performance against Zellhuber was one of my favorite fights this year. Very entertaining, very exciting. He looked crisp on the feet. There was a moment, I believe, I'm just remembering off the top of my head. This was a month or two ago. I think he got taken down, and he showed great grappling defense against Zellhuber. I don't know if he had a takedown reversed or if he how he ended up. I think he was in I think he Zellhuber had him inside controller mount. Can't remember off the top of my head, but King Green definitely controlled that fight very well. Taking on Jeremy Stevens, who he's lost what, like 8 of his last 10. I mean, guy was on a 3-4 fight losing streak from the UFC, retired, goes to another promotion. I think it's BKFC off the top of my head. Loses. I mean, let me see. I want to get my facts straight. Let me see. 1, 2. Okay, so loses to no contest, loses 4, right? PFL, not BKFC, PFL. Has a split decision win and then 2 losses. This guy has not had he has 1 win in the last 8 years that is a split decision win. I mean, that's rough. I mean, losing to Gamrot, losing to Yair Rodriguez, these are losing to Jose Aldo. Those are decent losses. Those are respectable losses, but he has not had a non-split decision win in 8 years. Lost 2 fights, no contest, loses 4 in a row, leaves the UFC. I don't say he got cut because I don't know that to be a fact, but leaves as the UFC. Let's see. Loss, split decision win, loss. Like it. Oh man, and half these losses are their finishes. I mean, they're submissions and knockouts. He should have just stayed retired if that's what he did. King Green, I think he's got this. There's no point even trying to. Bobby Green's looked good in his last couple of fights. I mean, he was looking good against Patty until he got caught. He pretty good gatekeeper in lightweight. Jeremy, pack it up, bro. Brady versus Buckley. This is one of the most. This is this to me is what Protest versus JDM should have been. Like everyone was, myself included, I really thought Protest versus JDM was 50-50. I really and truly did. Everywhere I looked, their poll results were different everywhere. On the UFC's Instagram page, or maybe it was like an MMA page, someone posted a poll in their story. It was one result. The UFC posted on their YouTube page another result. Like everywhere I looked, the poll results were just different for JDM versus Protest, but they were all within a few percentage of each other. That was not the case at all. Protest dominated JDM. I think that 50-50, that's what this fight should be. I mean, both these guys, Brady coming off that loss to Morales, who is a weight bully. I've been saying it forever. Morales looks like he should be fighting at middleweight, possibly light heavyweight. If you put him side by side next to Yuri in the octagon or like Rakic or some, maybe not Rakic, but if you put him next to like, who else? Jamal Hill is pretty tall, so maybe not him, but if you were to put him next to like Yuri or Olberg, like I feel like you would not think that he's out of place. I mean, Morales is a beast, great wrestling, but he didn't even need it because the power. I mean, you have Brady who just talked about going to lightweight, and then you have Morales who looks huge for welterweight. So that was, I won't say a mismatch, but that's not a bad loss for Brady. And then you have Buckley on the other hand, who got dominated by Usman last year. But since then, he's been training with Usman, I believe. I don't know if it's a consistent thing, but I saw a picture of him or a video of him training with Usman, working on that takedown defense, I presume, in in anticipation for Brady, one of the best grapplers in the UFC. So this one for me is an absolute coin flip. I would not be surprised either way. I'm very excited for this fight specifically. I don't even have a pick for it. I just want to talk about it because it's a solid fight. I'm glad it's not in the Apex. Next up, we have Volkov versus Waldo. I gotta go with Volkov. Volkov, I think he's gonna show Waldo levels. I mean, Waldo's coming off of that win over Derek Lewis, where I'm pretty sure Derek got not grazed, but Waldo did not connect full. Like he connected on Derek, but it wasn't like a flush punch to the jaw. Derek slipped a little bit, got hit, fell, and just gave up. I mean, that no disrespect to Waldo, I don't want to take away that win from him, but that win over Derek Lewis was not very impressive. And then before that, he got beat by Pavlovich decisively. It was a pretty solid win for Pavlovich. So I mean, Waldo, I feel like this is going to be the biggest real challenge for Volkov. I mean, Pavlovich, I thought should have finished Waldo. That wasn't the case. Made me gain a bit more respect for Waldo. Maybe second guess my thoughts on him as a fighter. The Derek Lewis fight. I mean, Derek. At first, I thought he dropped him. That I'm pretty sure Derek slipped. I'm like 95% sure. Um, like as he was getting hit, he slipped, fell, and just gave up. But Volkov, his wrestling defense against Almeida was pretty weak. I think he got taken down three. What was it? Once per round. I mean, that being said, Volkov, there's not going to be much of a wrestling threat from Waldo, and I definitely think that his grappling is better than Waldo's grappling defense. Than if Waldo was to try and grapple with Volkov. I think Volkov will do a better job offensively than Waldo would do against Volkov offensively, if that makes sense. Um, I truly believe that Volkov is going to show Waldo levels. I think Volkov's got. I mean, he's just fought a higher caliber of fighter. He has that controversial loss to Gon. I mean, he's beat Pavlovich. He's gone toe to toe with some of the best in the division. Lost to Aspinall, but everybody in this division, damn near except for Gon, who that was in no contest. He's lasted the longest. I mean, everyone else gets knocked out in the first round. He did get submitted, but it was later into the round. Like he had one of the best showings against Aspinall. It kind of sucks that that's the metrics we have to use is who lasted who took the most amount of time in the first round and get knocked out by Aspinall. But really not a lot of common opponents for these guys. I mean, you could say what Pavlovich and Lewis, but Derek Lewis is an anomaly. And if we're going to use MMA math for Pavlovich, all right, Volkov beat his ass, and then he beat Waldo. So I just truly believe that Volkov is the better fighter, and I think that the fight favors him. I think that he's got the reach. I think he can outstrike Waldo. I don't necessarily know that he has more power, but if he decides to grapple, I do think his wrestling and submission threats are much better than Waldo. So I have to go with Volkov. Next up, Van versus Tyra. This is going to be an interesting matchup. You have Van, who's a very striking, heavy fighter, versus Tyra, who he's. I don't want to sit here and say like he is a phenomenal grappler, but he's more well-rounded because his striking I don't want to say it's underrated, but in comparison to his grappling, it's not mentioned nearly as much. But he still has great striking as well. But I know, like people have mentioned, this narrative going around that Van cannot grapple, which is not. It's not a fact, I'll say, but I do think that he has not shown nearly as much grappling defense as he'll need against someone like Tyra. I think that Tyra is one of the best grapplers in flyweight. He's right up there with Pantoja. Um, I do know that Tyra, like Van, he's not like a knockout artist. He's not like a heavy hitter, but he's got that volume that's going to keep coming at you. Like he's a very output heavy guy. I do think that Tyra, in between those shots in the rounds, can find that takedown on Van. I do think that he can pull off a submission. I do think that Van, he's a good fighter, but I think that Tyra is just a level above him. I don't see any way that Van knocks out Tyra or Tyra goes the distance with him. I just cannot see that. Um, Let me see. Yeah, Van. No disrespect. Yeah, I'd say it's about 50-50. His win. No, it's like 60-40, 65-35 that his wins are by decision rather than knockout. So I wanted to fact check myself on that before I said that he's not like a knockout artist or he's not capable. I mean, he has knockouts, but he clearly has more wins um, by decision rather than Tyra, who's well rounded. I mean, he's got wins by knockout, wins by sub, wins by decision. So like I said, Tyra is a much more well rounded fighter. I do think he'll be able to pick Van apart, and maybe not in the striking, but he'll be able to find those shots, time them right, and then get get those submission threats, and then possibly sink in a submission to win. And then finally, Khamzat Chimaev versus Sean Strickland. This is no different than Islam versus Islam versus JDM, Khamzat versus DDP. The only two ways this can go. All right, there are only three ways this can go. Right, one is Khamzat Chimaev by lay and pray. DDP 2.0. Two, Khamzat by sub. Think Khamzat versus Whitaker. And then three, Sean by KO, TKO. Think Sean versus Hernandez. Like, Khamzat is not going to knock out Strickland. Strickland is not going to sub Chimaev, and Strickland is not winning a decision. There's no way that any of those happen. So it has to be Khamzat by sub, Khamzat by decision, or Sean Strickland by TKO. Win. Let's start with Sean. I don't think that he's gonna. I don't think that he can keep Chimaev on the feet long enough to get a TKO win. I think Khamzat will. He is arguably the best wrestler in the UFC. He's easily top 3. I don't care what anyone says. I do think that he has some sort of, to say some sort of is a huge understatement, but these guys do have personal beef. I don't think Khamzat's the type to like put aside his grappling skills in an attempt to knock Sean out and embarrass him. I don't see that happening. I definitely think that he will stick to the grappling, and then he'll try to do like he did against DDP and hit him 527 times. I think he'll try to, he'd rather psychologically damage him, hold him down, show him, hey, there's nothing you can do. You're a little boy to me, versus go out there and try to stand on the feet, especially when DDP, it looked like he might knock out Khamzat at one point. Like he wobbled him real badly. I don't remember if he got an actual knockdown in that, but I can't see Khamzat taking that risk. I mean, he seemed pretty calm we haven't seen the press conference yet, but he seems pretty calm online up until this point. I think he'll stay in control, follow the game plan, and he'll get those takedowns. And then Sean, we really don't know how good his grappling defense is. Like, yeah, we know how he's got some wrestling defense, but who in middleweight is giving him a real threat in the like DDP was 1 for 2 and like 6 for 13 in his takedowns against Sean. If he's pulling that off, Khamzat's gonna have a field day, and nobody else in middleweight is giving Sean a big, wrestling submission threat. In my opinion, I mean Izzy's not getting those. Like, who else? I definitely think Khamzat is leagues above. So for UFC 328, I've got let's see, Seanstrickland, that's 1. Gordon 2, Atiba 3, King 4, Volkov 5, Tyra 6, and for my 7th one, Khamzat Chimaev. Let me know what you guys think. Those are 7 predictions I have for UFC 328. Let me know what you guys, which fights you're looking forward to the most, which bets you're making, if any. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one.